Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Johnny, to spend your time for some questions we have. Cecilia, you are the owner of this Estancia. When your family came to Uruguay?
Well, my family from my mother's side, that they were Spanish people, they came in 1780 more or less. And my father's family from the Spanish part, they came also in 1780 more or less. And then the German part, I have this land thanks to the Germans who were the ones who lent it to my great-grandmother and my great-grandmother to my grandmother, and then they arrived in 1830 more or less, after many revolutions, when the country was a little bit more quiet. My grandmother, she inherited 30,000 hectares here, and but they were 5 brothers, so the others had like. She was married to Regules, Mr. Regules, who was a doctor in medicine, and this property she had it for a long time. She was renting the land because she couldn't. He was a doctor, and he went to Germany to help the wounded in the war there. They stayed like 2 years helping there, and that's why my father was born there. And when she came back, then her husband died. My father, who was 1 year old when his father died, was of course educated by my grandmother and all my uncles who were German. In my father's family, they all spoke German. When my father was older enough, he came here and he began constructing.
How big was the Estancia when your father started?
When my father started, he had 6,000 hectares here, and he was a very good entrepreneur, my father, because with these 6,000 hectares, he was able, during his management, to buy 3,000 more. My grandmother had another daughter that was called Susanna, my aunt. And so when my grandmother died, they split the land, and there were 3,000 hectares to my aunt, 3,000 hectares to my father, and the other 3,000, it was a divorce with my father and my mother, who were gone.
How many cows and sheep and what?
Well, in those times there were 9,000 cows and maybe 15,000 sheep. It was, and we would get like 60,000 tons of wool. And there were, in the moments of the shearing, we had like, I don't know, 45 people working here.
And you had other animals also?
Yes, my father used to have pigs, chicken, and we made dulce de leche, and we made butter and cream, and there were many things that were produced here at the farm. When my father died, then we split it, the 3,000 between the 6, and each received 5. I received less because I kept the house, because for me the house was very important.
What are your targets to do with that Estancia for the future?
Well, my targets for the future is to be able to give work to the people who are around here, and to maintain this. That was the place where my father did everything for us, all our education. He gave work to many people, and I think that you cannot leave a house go down.
So, Johnny, you are also part of the big family. May you explain us how your families are related behind together?
Uruguay, it's a very small country with 3 million inhabitants only. And at the time, all the big families were in one way or another related. And my grandfather and her grandfather were brothers. And that is how we come to be Regules. And in that time, we always shared coming to the estancias because we were cousins, and as you can see, these properties were very big, and it was the gathering of all the family. We were also acquainted with the cattle. We were very good riders. We had horses everywhere, and that was the way of transportation at the time. And we had a lot of fun with that. And that is why breeding horses also, it is some part of the pride of the family to have very good horses.
Where is your heart? Is it Uruguayan or European, or what are your feelings?
I was, as I told you, I was born here, and at the age of 18 I left the country and I went abroad, and now it's 50 years that this has happened. And I always feel that my heart is where I am. Of course, when I come to Uruguay, I do feel Uruguayan because I love the countryside, and I love my cows, and I love the nature that we still have.
You live mainly in Europe now, and what are your personal thinking? What is the difference between Europe and Latin America?
In Europe, unfortunately, we haven't got time to communicate. Everything has been modernized in communications. Families have been separated. People live in Hong Kong, and the other ones in Singapore, and the other ones in Berlin. And this doesn't happen in Uruguay. People have more time to spend talking to you. They have more time to spend with you, listening to you, knowing about you. And for me, that is very important.
Johnny, nowadays the estancias are no more managed as they were managed when you were 20 years old. What is the change? What is different today than?
For what I see, the way of farming today, it has been modernized, and they are not paying attention to the traditional part of having many people around the estancias. The estancias, or the farms, were a hub for many families that lived and worked in the farm. And our duty at that time was that our grandmothers and grandfathers and so on, they would be teaching how to read, how to write, give them books, and more or less do the work that schools couldn't do because they were very far away. And today, coming to the question, I see that they are doing more intensive type of farming. They are doing soya beans, for example, and they are doing forestation, which is very new to this country. And sheep, it was a very, very big industry in this country, and I don't see it anymore.
Thank you very much to Cecilia, and thank you very much, Johnny, for these speeches and answers. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank you,
to
Peter.
you. Thanks to you.